For this one, the periods change. Different people are going to approach this differently. If you make a list of what you can measure or what you can see from the graph, I think it helps if you draw kind of or imagine a line down the center to visualize the vertical shift. Normally for just y equals sine x, the middle is right along the x-axis. This midline is kind of up 2 there, right? So all that means is on the end there's going to be plus 2. Like you're sort of just filling in the numbers one at a time. Y equals something, if you're calling it a sine, something for the period, something for the phase shift, and then something on the end here. So if we're filling this in here, this is plus 2 on the end because it's up 2 here. It's 3 up and 3 down from there. The amplitude is 3. Okay, amplitude equals 3, so you put a 3 in front. The period of the thing, if you pick any point like this and go to the next point there, or you pick this point and go to the next point there, same point, and look at how far that is, right? From one point to the next, same point in the cycle is pi, right? From there to there. Okay, so the period is pi. If the period is pi, it doesn't mean you put a pi in here, because that would make the period 2. If the period is pi, the number that goes here is 2 pi over pi, or 2, right? This is a 2. And then the only other thing is the phase shift here. To find the phase shift, if you kind of imagine a starting point, if you're just going to call it positive sine, then you have to think about the starting point as a middle point on the way up. There's kind of 4 parts in the cycle. There's middle on the way up, top, middle on the way down, and at the bottom. Those are the 4 points in the cycle. If you're calling it positive sine, you need to start with this one, middle on the way up, right? This would be calling it positive sine. If you're calling it that, then that's the phase shift, pi over 2. So shifted, it's as though the whole graph has been shifted that far, pi over 2 to the right, so minus pi over 2. Make the connections with what you know about transformations, right? If you imagine that this is one chunk of this sine graph, okay, you've just found the whole thing by transformations, right? You're imagining that it's in the middle, it's compressed down to 1 to negative 1, like you're imagining it's, I took the orange part too, sorry, but you're imagining it's like that, right? It matches up with that original sine curve there, but you're compressing it that way, and you're making it taller and shifting it up, which on here, this is what I have to do, and then you're shifting it to the right last. All right, so all of those changes come from this. That's one equation you could write. You could write a different equation, and the only thing that would be different is the phase shift, and then possibly a negative in front, and whether this is sine or cosine. But the other stuff's going to be all the same. If you called it a cosine graph, then you'd be starting up here, right? And then so the only difference would be it would say 3 cos 2 x minus, and you're going to have a different phase shift now, plus 2. All the other stuff would be the same. But now this is the phase shift. It's hard to see what that is, but it's halfway in between there. What would that be? Halfway in between there, you'd have to count this. Each of these is pi over, how much? 6? Each of these is pi over 6, so half a square would be pi over 12. Right? Half of one of those marks would be pi over 12. And I can count how many of them I have if I want. I can say I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 pi over 12. Or I guess if you were a little more on the ball than I am right now, you could just look and say there's 3/4 of the way. This is 3/4 of pi, right? If you look at those 3 spaces out of 4. 3 pi over 4. You could actually call it a negative sine curve if you wanted to start here because it's in the middle on the way down. You could make it negative sine. Everything else would be the same. This would actually have no phase shift because it's starting right at the middle. It hasn't been shifted sideways. All the other stuff would be the same. 3, 2 here. You'd have no phase shift, and then plus 2. You could call it negative cosine if you started down here. if you really wanted to. All right. That's a warm-up that's got a question for you that's got a period of pi, something involving pi. Any questions about that?